live here at Trustmark Park. As you can see, it's a little windy today, but that's okay. We're looking forward to what we have in store for you, and it's going to be fun. You know, 2020 is something we've never experienced before. COVID-19 has us thinking differently, working differently, and finding new ways to address challenges. You know, this year, as I said, is different, and so is Hobnob. We can't be together. We really hope that we would be able to have everybody with us and have a typical Hobnob where that's exactly what we do is Hobnob. But we just wanted to do something a little different, but to keep with the tradition of bringing you information about what's happening in the legislative session. Now, as we get ready to banter, I want to first tell you a little bit about MEC's #1 draft pick for the 2021 season. Anthony Wilson, CEO of Mississippi Power, is serving as chair and has helped guide MEC through a very unusual time.
Good morning, and thank you for being part of Hobnob. I'm extremely honored to serve as chair of Mississippi Economic Council. Without a question, we have faced numerous challenges throughout this year. However, we're responding and paving the way for extraordinary opportunities. This marks our 19th Hobnob, Mississippi, and it will be like no other Hobnob. We all wish we could be together today, but your safety remains our #1 priority. Over the next 2 hours, several of our state's elected officials will be here to discuss what has transpired over the last few months. And we will also bring you conversations with Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann and with Speaker Philip Gunn. Each will sit down with MEC President Scott Waller to talk about historic legislative session. Kathy Northington will visit with women who are making a difference in their communities as wives of mayors from across our state. You will also hear from U.S. Senate candidates as the election is only 5 days away. These have been unprecedented times beyond the pandemic. I believe MEC's crowning achievement, despite 2020's many hurdles, is leading the movement to take down the controversial state flag. This is a defining moment for our state, a chance to change perceptions of Mississippi around the world and race toward a greater, brighter future. Thank you for standing shoulder to shoulder with us and your pivotal support of our It's Time campaign. Thank you to Speaker Gunn, Lieutenant Governor Hosemann, and Governor Reeves for their vision and their leadership. Thank you to our state legislators who had the courage to take those historic votes on House Bill 1796 to create a path for the In God We Trust flag design on the ballot. Please continue to convey the importance of this election to your family, friends, and employees, and encourage them to get to the polls to vote on Tuesday. It's time. It's time for a fresh new start for Mississippi. Finally, as you know, we were not able to hold our annual meeting this year. This is set for April each year, and it is at that time the transition of leadership takes place. And as a result, we did not have the opportunity to recognize the work of 2019-20 Chair, Lex Taylor. Lex did a tremendous job as chair and helped MEC begin the process of how it can think strategically in playing an even more substantial role in growing Mississippi's economy and providing opportunity for all citizens. We will continue this process in the coming month, but I appreciate the work Lex has done to get this important initiative underway. Things have been different this year, but one thing remains the same. MEC is steadfast in focusing on Mississippi's future. Whether you're working from home or in your office with other colleagues, we hope you enjoy this edition of Hobnob.
Batting second are statewide elected officials. Introducing Insurance Commissioner Mike Cheney, Agriculture and Commerce Commissioner Andy Gibson. This panel will be moderated by MEC's Manager of Programs, Policy, and Administration, Jason Word.
Good morning, Hobnob 2020, as we banter at the ballpark. Thank you all for joining us today. It is my pleasure to share the stage with two familiar faces, the Mississippi Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce, Andy Gibson, and the Mississippi Commissioner of Insurance, Mike Cheney.
We're okay on our insurance side for most of the issues that face COVID. We've had to do some work on the front end back in March of 2020 to tell insurance companies, look, you got to comply to our bulletins, especially as it relates to telemedicine, and for having consumers not have to pay for COVID-19 testing. So we've been fairly good on the COVID side. The legislative session that begins in January, we'll have several things on our plate, but we'll probably only have at least 2 bills. One of them deals with the non-admitted policy fees, and the other one will deal with funding for the rural fire trucks. That's crucial for this state. If we don't fund rural fire trucks, insurance rates will go up. And it's a very, very precarious balance that I have to work trying to keep those funded and rates down. So we're working with some very good legislative leaders. Hopefully we'll get that handled.
Mississippi agriculture today is facing, of course, the uncertainty of COVID-19, the markets that shut down so many places all over our country and the world in this past year, and the price depression that experienced from that. But I think as our farmers have never quit, they continue to work, they continue to plant, to sow the seed for tomorrow's harvest, and the prices are continuing to rebound as the economy is opening back up. But I think it's just a simple matter of uncertainty and what the demand will be next year. But we're going to get through this, and we're going to be better for it.
How has COVID impacted agriculture in Mississippi?
Well, initially there was a tremendous, the bottom fell out of the prices on basically every commodity. When all the restaurants shut down, people changed how they're eating. They're not eating at restaurants. I'll give you one example, catfish. 70% of the market for catfish went away in one day during the COVID shutdowns. So as the country has begun to reopen, as we know here in Mississippi, we're reopening quickly, and other states are not, though. So it's a slow recovery, but we're going to see the economy open back up, people get back to their patterns, and at the end of the day, we all have to eat. So the food is here. We're very blessed by our farmers to have abundant supply of food no matter what tomorrow holds.
At the top of the third, we have leading ladies from around the state. Our panel includes Starkville Mayor Lynn Spruill, South Haven Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Carmen Kyle, City of Greenville First Lady Dr. Tamika Simmons, City of Hattiesburg First Lady Kate Barker, City of Jackson First Lady Dr. Ebony Lumumba. This panel will be moderated by MEC's Chief Operating Officer Kathy Northington.
Thank you, thank you. Good morning and welcome to MEC's Hobnob 2020 Banter at the Ballpark. You guys, it's a little chilly out here. The wind is blowing, so excuse me if there's a bad hair day. We are having a great time here, but there is heat coming from the stage today. I don't know if you feel it, but I feel it, and I think you can look closely and you'll feel it from the stage.
I think most of the cities are trying to do a really good balancing job between making sure our community stays safe and at the same time making sure that we can still have businesses open. People still need jobs, they still need to be able to go to work, take care of their children, take care of their families. So it is a balancing act, and I think most of the cities are looking to do that, and I think most of them have been very successful.
How have the cities and MEC worked together in the betterment of the state?
Well, Mississippi, the Economic Council has been wonderful in helping us with our businesses because they always are looking toward keeping our businesses growing and bringing new ones in. And that, of course, is what's going to keep Mississippi thriving.
I'm Michael Watson, Mississippi's 36th Secretary of State, and I'm honored to serve you in this position. To MEC and Scott and his team, thank you so much for all you do for our state, for small businesses, for big businesses. Retaining those jobs is so important to our economy, so we appreciate all your support and all the good things that businesses do for our local communities. Again, I can't thank you enough for all that you do for our state. I want to talk to you about a couple of things really quickly here. First and foremost, COVID's impact on our economy. I think many of you have tracked those numbers and understand what's happening here, but from a sheer numbers perspective, we did see a small decline in new businesses here in Mississippi. Typically, we average about 700 new businesses formed a week. So at the peak of the early parts of COVID, we saw that decline to about 600 per week. But let me tell you this, we have seen more than 3 times the number of new businesses formed this year than we saw last year. Mississippians are resilient. They rise to the occasion every time it is needed. So I appreciate all our small businesses, all our entrepreneurs across Mississippi, the hard work that you're putting in, it's going to pay off. Economic conditions will continue to get better here in our state. So we're looking forward to that and supporting that every chance we get, as are our friends at MEC. Now, Tackle the Tape. It's an initiative I wanted to mention to you as we move forward. One of the great things that we're doing here in our office, you may recall several years ago the legislature passed what was called the Occupational Licensing Review Commission. So any new rules and regulations dealing with occupational licensing that were set out by more than 29 boards that we oversee now under the OLRC, we could review those and we could strike them, we could send them back for the folks to start over at the drawing board, or we can make an amendment there at the OLRC meetings. This year, the legislature passed a bill that would allow that cap to be taken off. So not only new regulations and rules, but now we can look back at old ones as well. Why is that important? We want to make sure that we have a free market here in Mississippi. So any kind of anti-competitive measure, any rule or regulation that's in place now, we want to take a look at it. We want to strike it down if needed. So I encourage you to visit our website, sos.ms.gov, and take a look at the Tackle the Tape initiative. One of the really cool things is the rest of the country is taking notice of what we're doing here in Mississippi. We were invited to the White House press conference last week, where they spoke on the phone to leaders across this country. And they told them about initiatives that were springing up in different states, including here in Mississippi. So I was given the opportunity to explain the Tackle the Tape initiative to leaders across our country. And so when the White House takes notice, and they actually tweeted out our website, which was really cool for us to have a soft launch with the White House's help. I encourage you to take time to look at our website. If you see those regulations that are cumbersome, that are overburdensome, again, that are anti-competitive in nature, please send them to us through our website, and we will tackle the tape through the OLRC. Thank you to the governor. Thank you to the attorney general, who also sit on that with us. They're going to be great partners moving forward to make sure that we have a friendly business climate here in Mississippi. Lastly, let's talk about Election Day. For those of you who cannot vote on Election Day, make sure that you understand this. This Saturday at 5 p.m. is the last time you can vote absentee in person. Go to our website, y'allvote.ms, to make sure that you understand why you can vote absentee, and then go to your circuit clerk's office to cast that ballot. You can vote in person absentee. Again, that deadline is this Saturday at 5 p.m. Or you can vote by mail absentee. There are only 4 excuses for that. So again, go to y'allvote.ms to make sure you understand those excuses. As long as that ballot is postmarked by Election Day, November 3rd, and received within 5 business days thereafter, your vote will be counted. So make sure you're prepared. An educated voter is a great voter in our eyes. So make sure you take the time to prepare for all the things that are on the ballot. We have presidential race, we have U.S. Senate, congressman, we have local circuit court races, we have Supreme Court races, we have the initiatives that you are very well aware of, medical marijuana, the new flag, and how we elect our statewide elected officials. So it's very important that you go. Now, on Election Day, you're going to see a clean and safe precinct. We have spent time, number of hours, with our circuit clerks, with our elections commissioners, with legislative leadership, with other statewide leaders, talking about making sure Mississippians feel safe when they go vote. When you walk into your precinct, you're going to see hand sanitizer, you're going to see masks and gloves, you're going to see face shields, you're going to see sneeze guards, you're going to see a pen if you vote on paper. That's your free pen to take with you, so you don't have to exchange that pen with anyone else. If you vote on a machine, you're going to see a free stylus, so you can touch that screen and make sure you're casting your vote again. You don't have to share that stylus with anyone else. You're going to see additional poll managers who are there to wipe down the tables, the doorknobs, the machines. Again, it's going to be a clean and safe precinct. So I encourage all Mississippians, please go vote. This is the opportunity for your voice to be heard, and this is a very important election for our state's future as well as our country's future. Thank you again for allowing me to serve. It is an honor that I do not take lightly. You've got a great group of men and women here at the Secretary of State's office who care about Mississippi, who want to serve you and serve you well. So it's not just me, it's us. Again, thank you for all you do for our business community here in Mississippi, for all the employees that you send a job to and help feed their families. Thank you so much for all of that. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Good morning. I want to thank the Mississippi Economic Council for inviting me to join you virtually today. Hobnob is an annual institution, and I sincerely hope that we can be together in person this time next year. I have been blessed to work with you as a partner and many others throughout my career in public service. You are Mississippi's economic developers, community leaders, and business partners. And though 2020 has brought many new challenges, you have persevered because you are in the business of keeping Mississippi in business. You are driving the engine of our progress, and you will spur our economic comeback. I am proud to work with all of you in my new role as your Attorney General, and I'm excited for all new opportunities to work with you for the best interest of the people of Mississippi. Since taking office in January, we've been making some key changes to the way we do business in the Attorney General's office. In my brief time with you this morning, I want to update you on 2 exciting new ways I am working with President Trump and the United States Department of Justice to protect Mississippi businesses and consumers. First, I was honored to be invited last month by President Trump and Attorney General Barr to join a working group of state AGs to address the dangers of online censorship. Social media companies have long used the Communications Decency Act to shield themselves from liability when they block your free speech and remove what is lawful content. We are working with the White House to ensure the digital town square remains open and free to all people's voices. You don't lose your right to free speech just because you use it online. Also, with the President and the Department of Justice, we filed suit to rein in the monopoly and power of Google to keep them from blocking your access to the online marketplace. We support and value innovation in the market, but when it goes unchecked, consumers and businesses suffer. A small business cannot access the online search marketplace if big tech holds all the cards and calls all the shots. We must hold Silicon Valley accountable. You've always known partnership to be the hallmark of my public service, and I'll work with other states and federal agencies whenever I can to promote Mississippi's best interest. My office similarly wants to continue to work with MEC and organizations throughout Mississippi to find creative and sustainable solutions to meet the needs of our great state. We want Mississippians to be empowered to be a part of the solutions to some of Mississippi's greatest challenges. This is all about partnerships, and I need leaders like you to be a part of these efforts. I'm excited about what lies ahead of us, and I look forward to what we can accomplish together. Thank you again for inviting me to speak to you today. I encourage you to reach out to my office if you need any answers or if there's anything we can do to help. Thank you for everything you do to help Mississippi achieve our very best future.
In the 5th inning, we'll hear from Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hoseman.
Governor Hoseman, so good to see you. Thank you for taking a few minutes, Cubs fan. So obviously you enjoy baseball,
Cubs
right?
Fan, and we were long suffering until we won in the bottom of the 10th inning that time that we beat Cleveland and won the national championship. We made the playoffs this year. We didn't do so well. We were out in 2 games.
But at least it's not quite like it used to be. That's for sure.
No, we're, as they say, we're competitive now.
So, well, listen, thank you for being here with us. You had a year, almost a year under your belt as now Lieutenant Governor, having served 12 years as Secretary of State. I think this session was probably the most unusual any of us will ever see.
Yeah.
But will you talk a little bit about the work of the Senate and what they did that was so important during this time?
Well, and you're right about that. This was a historic session. We've never had a 10-month session in Mississippi history. We've never had it combined with a pandemic. We gave money for veterans' homes, and we gave money for ICU units, and all across the board. We redid our workforce training. I thought that was critical to a lot of your members, where we shrunk the SWIB board to 7 members from 40, and then we're hiring a workforce czar, and we put $55 million in retraining our workforce. We're very concerned when we come out of this pandemic that we're going to face a historic economic challenge. We have spent $3.1 billion now in Mississippi on workers' compensation, $3.1 billion from March to September. And as that plays out here over the next several weeks and going into next year, we're very concerned that our workforce be trained to go back to a meaningful financial job. So we addressed a lot of issues in Mississippi this year, and I was real proud of the legislature. I thought they did a good job.
And I know one of the COVID-19 issues that was very important to you was providing assistance to businesses through the Back to Work Act. Can you talk a little bit about why that was so important?
It was very important. We felt like our businesses needed to have the support, particularly beginning in April and May, so we allocated $300 million to our small businesses in Mississippi, those who employed 50 or less. The others were receiving PPE from the national government. We wanted to give our small business in Mississippi a lifeline to stay in business, and we specifically allocated 20% of that amount, or $60 million, for minority businesses in Mississippi who were also very threatened, and gave them the preference of the first 60 days to apply. Unfortunately, we never spent all of that money. Not all of it was applied for, but some 30,000 or so applied, and I think somewhere in 20 to 25,000 actually got money from that program. very important for us, I think, to help our small businesses during the time they were struggling so much.
You mentioned liability protections. That was something that was really important to our members. Your leadership on that was so important that what was passed is considered a model legislation being used by other states. Again, you mentioned it. Why was it so important? Our businesses needed to know they could operate, correct?
Well, it wasn't only that. First of all, we started with healthcare, and I started with a position that nobody in the healthcare industry should be subject to litigation because they are in the healthcare industry. And then that morphed into the fact that, like, blue jean companies started making masks, and we had vodka and distilleries in Jackson start making hand sanitizer outside of what we asked them to do for their own profit. And so it seemed to me to be clear that we should not hold them liable for stepping outside to help us when we had really a healthcare crisis in Mississippi. So we expanded that from healthcare workers to cover all the people, restaurants and individuals stepping outside their bounds. I thought that was very appropriate, and I'm glad we did that. And it's funny about that. It was adopted by the National Chamber as the status. Also, our tourism package was adopted as one of the national standards. Also, our broadband, we contributed $75 million to expand broadband, and it was matched by the co-ops. So we ended up with about almost $150 million of new broadband coverage to unserved areas, 50,000 homes in Mississippi. And that too was adopted as part of a national scheme on how people look at what they're doing, and they really mirrored what we were doing. Mississippi was a leader in how we spent our CARES Act, and I'm proud of our legislature for doing that.
Well, without question, and again, I think that speaks so much to the work that you guys did during that really extended session that we were in. But one of the things that happened was something very historic and something MEC for years has supported, and that is changing the state flag. Can you talk a little bit about that process? Because I know a lot of legislators had to take a tough vote, but at the end of the day, we are in a position to move Mississippi forward.
Yeah, that was difficult for a lot of people. And when we went through the process, the first thing that happened was y'all were some of the leaders in changing the flag from an economic development park. And as I visited with your other economic developers around the state, they said we were being harmed. Then I would receive calls from some national companies that said they would no longer invest in Mississippi if we had that flag. So we had an economic portion. Then our faith-based community, our Catholics, our Baptists, our Presbyterians all came together, and which is very unusual for all of them to come together and say, this is a moral thing. To have this flag is a moral thing, and Mississippi should not be participating in it. Then we had certain sports figures come into play. But I think the thing that moved the Senate, and I can't speak for the House, but what moved the Senate so much was everybody started focusing on where are your children going to work? Where are they going to be able to live in Mississippi? Are they going to be able to have a job here? Who are they going to be working with? And how should a flag be divisive to everyone when it's flying over our public assets? And in the end, at least for me, I can speak for, my children and my grandchildren were the motivating factor to move us past that. A lot of these other things also attributed to that, but in the end it was the best thing for the state, and it was the time to do it.
And we now have a flag that has a lot of symbolism that represents history and the future. The votes on November the 3rd, very important that people get out and vote. Do you?
It was, and what we talked about, you know, when we looked at this, there were two things that I required to support it. One was it having God We Trust on it, and the other that it be voted by the citizens. I didn't want any flag that people said, well, you pick my flag. I don't pick the flag. In fact, I didn't even get a vote in the Senate, actually. We're the lieutenant governor, so we don't get to vote except at a tie. So what we did was we had a commission look at 3,000 applications. They came up with a flag that you've got on your lapel, Scott, and they came up with something that was was a really good focus point for us to go forward. Now Mississippians will vote on a flag. If they don't like that one, then we'll get another one. But I think in this instance, I certainly don't want to go back.
Real quick before we wrap up, talk workforce development.
Okay.
You talked about the Office of Workforce Development being created. That's huge. Why is workforce development so important for us?
Well, 25% of our children get a college degree. The other 75% need a meaningful financial job. And it's as clear to me as that. And so when we look at workforce development, I wanted to aggregate all of these diffuse ones we have around the state in one central location that could be accountable. And that means if you promise me when you're a business and you come here and you promise me you're going to create 50 jobs, you don't create 20 and say, well, still bad. So we wanted some accountability, and we wanted everything to be coordinated. And I particularly wanted our career technical to be part of the accountability model for high schools. And so when I appeared before the Department of Education, I asked them to put it in the accountability model that, yes, the fact that I can code is very important. I may never get a college degree, but I can code, which will be a critical thing, or that I can weld, or that whatever the technical aspects are. I thought those were important. We're going to push and continue to push. We put $55 million in that last year. You'll see us push and continue career technical.
That's very important. As we wrap up, looking ahead, any final thoughts about what's in front of us?
Well, your membership knows this as well as anybody. The first quarter of next year will tell us a tale about where we are. We're projecting out that we'll be about the same budget as we did. We're a little ahead right now. We're about $100 million ahead on collections over predictions. But the first quarter of next year will tell us a lot. Your and our membership here, the Economic Council, will be the leaders when we meet that bump in the road. When our people come off and we start hiring again, we get our kids back to school again, all of that's going to happen in this period. And your leadership, your group's leadership on that, to take us through that and make sure we maintain our economic viability will be critical to us. First quarter of next year, very important. If we get past that, I think we're fixing to take off.
Well, we very much look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Look forward to next session, and thank you for being with us today.
It's good to be with you, Scott.
How can people become members of MEC?
It's real simple. Go to mec.ms, and it's right there for you.